Now, sticking with the company focus, Blue Label Telecoms listed on the JSE in 2007 as an investment holding company and quickly became a darling on the bourse. And despite never really being a telecoms operator, the group acquired a 45% stake in Cell C in 2017 for nearly 6 billion rand. This investment ultimately led to its downfall post two recapitalisations and complexity creeping into its once simple model. But the company has made moves to take control of Cell C, adding that progress is being made to simplify its overall business. Financial Mail contributor David Williams joins us with greater perspective on Blue Label and its restoration efforts. Thank you so much for your time, David. Let's actually dial it back. When Blue Label acquired Cell C, it was South Africa's third largest mobile operator. Were there dark spots in the business that Blue Label did not see or could not foresee?
Not so much that, I think, but that Cell C had always been playing catch-up. You know, there were the big two, MTN and Vodacom, and for many years they were the duopoly. And Cell C was brought into the market, allowed into the market in an attempt to break up the market, I suppose, make it more competitive. And Cell C never really got to the point where it was making money. It never really caught up. And I think Blue Label taking it over, they knew that very well, and they also knew that there had to be recapitalization. And in fact, they put a lot of money into it, recapitalizing it. And I think the issue with Blue Label as an investment destination is that in the story that we have this week, it quotes Warren Buffett saying, you know, I have a too hard pile. Investments that are too hard for investors to understand.
Yeah.
And the general view was that Blue Label, it specializes in prepaid services, and prepaid services are not easy to see and touch and understand. So it's quite a complex business, and you have to understand telecommunications, but also the highly complex and rapidly advancing field of telecommunications, prepaid services, digital services, and so on. And I think the view was that people didn't really understand, firstly, the Blue Label structures and its relationship with Cell C.
Yeah.
And I think the point is now they're trying to simplify that and to show the potential as Cell C begins to grow.
Well, David, I mean, it's been a really difficult issue for Blue Label to navigate. But would you say that it's always looked at, or maybe it's starting to look like the easiest option there is maybe to move closer to Cell C rather than to detach?
Well, they are moving towards taking control, and in fact that process is pretty far advanced, with the authorities having granted permission, competition authorities expected by the end of the year to approve that, and there's a deal going through which should give them effective 50% plus control. And the Levy brothers, Mark and Brett, who founded the company, they have quite a lot to say about how they've been blamed for having such a big stake in Cell C, but being dragged down by it without having the control over the company. That changes now. And I think what the Warren Buffett idea of the too hard pile, mobile network operators, not everyone understands this. And Cell C is very well placed to capitalize in that market and now to grow its revenue and its profit. So I think the point is that the complexity has firstly obscured what is possible with Cell C, and that possibly this company, which has really never become a star in that firmament of cell phone operators, now has opportunities beyond cell phones to grow. And I think the Levy brothers are trying to say, let's simplify this so that people can understand the investment potential.
But also, I mean, we talk about a Blue Label never really having been a telecoms company, but also now, you know, mentioning these moves of trying to get a controlling stake in the Cell C. Does this now mean that Blue Label is undergoing an evolution in terms of the broader classification of the business?
Yeah, I think it's moved from being just a service provider. There are specific areas in the digital space which perhaps a lot of investors don't fully understand, and they clearly do. And they've had a lot of experience in the prepaid market. They believe, the Levy brothers, that prepaid is where things are going. that the general model of doing commerce, of doing deals, is going to be prepaid, and they are very well placed to do that. And they have good partnerships, what they call the MVNOs, the mobile network operators.
Yes.
They're businesses not in the telecom sector, and they lease infrastructure from mobile operators. And now we're talking about the big banks, FNB, Standard Bank, Pick and Pay, other retail companies. Capitec, as a bank, sells 40% of all the prepaid airtime in the country. And Capitec has a link up with Cell C as well. So one really has to do some work to understand how the sector is changing all the time, and therefore how Cell C and therefore Blue Label are positioned to benefit.
I mean, just as we wrap up the conversation, David, I mean, with the pressure that Cell C has really put on Blue Label all these years, with all the setbacks, and also having Cell C overshadow, I guess, the core business, how much upside can there be in the long term? And was this a case of short-term pressure for long-term gain?
Well, I think I'm not a qualified investment analyst who can advise people on what's going to happen with an investment in this case. But certainly what the story does, it sets out all the potential that is available to Cell C and therefore Blue Label if it has a majority stake.
Yeah.
So it's one of those stories where, as the brothers admit, the exposure to Cell C is really very big. It's a big risk, because if Cell C fails or fails to improve its performance, that's going to be a drag on Blue Label. And I think what the story does, quoting various analysts too, is to identify that there do certainly seem to be opportunities here. And if execution is done properly and the complexity of the relationships linking the various businesses is simplified, then there certainly looks like potential for upside.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights there, David. Much appreciated. That was Financial Mail contributor David Williams.